Thank you so very much for staying with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Vivian Degwe, and as is the usual, each and every Monday, we get to have a segment where we talk about family matters. That is the Family Check segment, and today is no different. Particularly, we will be looking at the modern family and trying to see how have the roles been defined over the years, how have they changed over the years, and how do we remain grounded and remain strengthening the bond of family. And joining me for this conversation is, of course, my two guests right here. They are not new to the screens. We have Anthony right here, and we also have Nelly. Anthony is a therapist by profession, and Nelly is a multimedia creative, and they are here to get into that conversation. Welcome to the program, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let us begin by first, how about we define that term family first? Just from your point of view, what is a family? Let me begin with you.
Family is, say, two or more persons who are either related either by birth, either by marriage or by adoptions, and are living together. Yes.
That's a family.
Yes.
Yes.
What would you say a family is?
So traditionally, we know a family to be like maybe a father, a mother, and children. But right now, families could be a mother and children, could be a father and children, could be a grandmother and children. Yeah.
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 So clearly, over the years, depending on what you've just said, the roles have changed.
Yeah.
And the term family has actually changed because, you know, back in the days, families used to be that nuclear family. There's the mother, children, mother, father, children. Even in school, when you're told to draw a family, you have to draw the father, you have to draw the mother, and then put one or two children there for you to get that tick, right?
Yes.
But right now, I'm sure even the syllabus has to be tweaked a bit because when you put that in an exam, and there's a child who just puts the mother and children, and there's another one who puts father and children, and another one puts mother, father, children. They're still supposed to get that tick as well. So we now have more single family homes, you know, single moms, single fathers. So how do you feel the roles have changed?
Personally, I feel like when you talk about roles, traditionally, we used to believe, now let me talk about this in aspect of mother, father, and children. Traditionally, what used to be believed is that the father is the one to be the one providing, the mother is the one to be the caregiver of the children. That is what traditional perspective has put according to the traditional perspective. Now, you see, nowadays, it has changed over time because now you see, you can't tell me that I will only be focusing on what the tradition says about these roles in this family. Number one, for example, say I am the father and say I am working and maybe my wife is working, but now for me as a father, it reaches a point I need to study, like nisome ningie ni further my studies. Maybe nilifanya diploma. I need to do my degree. You see, now that will mean that I'll have to take part-time job. And that will mean that if my wife is working, she will have to take charge in some of the responsibilities. But nowadays we live in a society whereby I would say women expect that, you see, when we are getting into a relationship, it is the man to do 100 in this particular situation. I'm talking about
specifically when it comes to bills.
Yes, to bills. But realistically, you see, we have our goals, we have our values, we have things we want to achieve. And would you say just because I need to further my education and I have communicated to you that I need to advance my degree or master's or something like that, and you as the woman, you're working, so I'll have to take part-time, and part-time means now my salary, if it was 50,000, it won't be the 50,000 as it was.
You're now earning less.
Exactly. So it means that now when it comes to, if I was the one paying the school fees, the rent and all that, itafika mahali kuwa a bit challenging. So you as my wife will have to do 1 or 2, 3 things here and there. You'll have to be the caregiver and you'll have to be the provider at some point. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean
Let's assume you're the wife.
Let me finish.
I'm troubled because
Let me finish.
men want a traditional wife but do not want to be a traditional husband. If you want your woman to come and help, you know, financially, then also be open to come home early and wash utensils and cook for the kids. You don't want me going to work to come back at 6, provide for the house, and then also come and, you know, cater to your needs as a wife and as a mother. You also have to chip in. You see, the same way I chip in financially, you also chip in with work.
That's okay.
It's not okay for many men.
No, it's
you
okay.
Are you open to it yourself?
Yes, I am
Maybe
open
that's
to it.
just you.
Not only me. You see, let me just say this.
Go ahead.
You know, when we talk about family,
Yes.
the two of you are the priority in you wawili.
Yes,
Hata kama
of
mko na
course.
watoto, at the end of the day, both of you come first.
Of
Yeah.
course.
It doesn't matter whether you have other family members and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you won't tell me that I will now go as per what my tradition says. Now, let's say, for example, if you're my wife and you get pregnant, does it mean that now you'll be going to the kitchen and doing all that stuff and I won't be helping?
You should be
There are
helping.
men who are doing that. There are men who actually stand firm in the traditional perspective of a man is not supposed to go to the kitchen. A man is not supposed to be the caregiver.
No.
But nowadays, we are in the modern perspective and you need to embrace, as men who are watching and you are in that mindset of living in the traditions and what the culture says. My culture inasema mwanamume hafai kukanyangisha mguu kitchen. Mimi sifai kuchange mtoto wangu diaper.
Yes.
But nowadays, you see, both of you mko hapo na bibi yako. It doesn't matter what your family says. Ati sasa mmekuja, family members wamekuja kuvisit, wanapata mwanamume ako kitchen. Mama ya kijana anakuuliza kwani
umekaliwa kiasi gani?
But it doesn't mean that should be the case. We should erase that mentality as a society. We erase that mentality completely. That now you see, when you both of you in that family, in that relationship, if it's the mother, the father, and the child, the mother and the father are the priority, and you need to help each other. Kama nimeona unapika Vivian, na wewe maybe for example I'm a traditional man, si vibaya kama Vivian kuniambia ingia jikoni nisaidie kufanya kitu, na nisikuwe kusema ai hapana hiyo sifai, mimi sifai kupika, ama uniambie change mtoto diaper. Hapana, I should be very open enough to say, you know what, you are my partner, you are my woman. It doesn't matter what my culture says and my tradition. At the end of the day, this is our house, this is our home. Whatever happens here remains here. So I won't say ati nitakataa alafu tena shida ni inakuwa mazoea. Unajua sasa kuna perspective mwanamke sasa ameona nimekuja kitchen, wazazi wakikuja like babe, sikuja nisaidia kupika. Well,
why are you hiding?
No.
But then again, no, Anthony, you know, from where you started with this particular point that you're putting across, you were talking about you as a man, probably you want to further your studies and maybe there's something else you need to do.
Yes.
So you may need your wife to chip in when it comes to paying bills. So if she's chipping in, isn't she doing that constantly? So why don't you also want to be helping in the house constantly, not a one-time thing?
So you're
if
trying
the
to say-
woman is also coming in.
So you're trying to say the man is the one who's supposed to 100% provide and pay bills?
Yes.
100%?
Yes.
You are listen,
a
you are
man's role is
this
to
is a
provide
partnership.
and care.
Listen, it's okay. That's the Bible.
Let's define those roles.
Yeah.
What's the role of a man in a marriage and what's the role of a woman?
Normally, biblically, traditionally, and stuff like that, a man's role is to provide and protect.
Yes.
But you see, provision does not mean that I don't need emotional support. Does not mean that I don't need financial support. As much as I am the provider, let me give you an instance. Last year but one, kulikuwa na cases, I don't know if it happens nowadays, in Kirinyaga, where men were dying by suicide. And there's one man who came, alikuwa interviewed, akauliza kwa nini wanaume wa Kirinyaga wanajinyonga, wana commit suicide. Na akasema, tunaishi kwa boma na mwanamke wangu, lakini mimi niko hapa nalipa school fees, nalipa nyumba, yeye ako kazi. Lakini hawezi taka kuona nimefinyika kidogo anisaidie. Unaona? It doesn't mean that wewe kama mwanamke una earn 50,000 na mimi nina earn hata kama ni 80,000. Haimaanishi ati sasa pesa yako ni pesa yako. This is our home. We are partners in this relationship. You can help me in ABCD. Si lazima useme ati sasa wewe juu una earn salary yako, wewe enda ukulie salary yako na vitu zingine. Hapana. This is our home. This is our relationship. This is our family. Whatever happens in our family remains here, and it all has to do with us. It doesn't matter what the society and tradition says. Kuja unisaidie. Sitakata. Shida ni sasa wanawake wameweka into perspective. Sasa mwanamume ndio sasa the 100%. Acha nikupe perspective nyingine Vivian. Wezi mko kwa nyumba na your husband for example. Na wezi wamekuja. Normally the man of course ata step up na aseme ni aje, I'll take a weapon nikuja nipige. But sasa utakimbia chini ya kitanda. Si tu collaborate tupige huyu mwizi. Ama kama unaweza collaborate kupiga huyu mwizi, sio ni partnership.
If it was me, clearly I'll be under that bed.
Wewe chukua kisu, mimi nichukue rungu. Tuchangamkie huyu mwizi. Mbona ukimbie chini ya kitanda? Mimi nipigwe niuliwe halafu.
So you've given us the role of a man from your point of view, which is to provide and to protect. What's the role of a woman?
The role of a woman in the traditional perspective is to be supportive, both emotionally and in all, and to help. Mwanamke ni msaidizi. Exactly. You see, so kama wewe ni msaidizi utaniambiaje basi kama nimekuelezea uko na challenge hautanisaidia kuchip in kulipa bills kidogo?
Ni maana mtu akikusaidia na kusaidia kidogo si yote.
Unaona sasa ni sawa kusaidia, lakini unajua kuna wanawake hawatasaidia. Nimekuambia nime rent this time itakuwa ngumu. Kidogo kuna ABCD tunawako niko na project fulani na kidogo finances ziko chini, si unisaidie utoe hata kama ni 20k tulipe rent.
Ni wewe unataka usaidiwe financially, unaona ikiwa sawa, lakini zile roles zenye mwanamke anafanya kwa nyumba hutaki kumsaidia, unaona hizo ni za mwanamke, like you don't want to take part.
That is wrong.
Like typically in like an average Kenyan home. Mimi hata mimi where I grew up in my home, mimi sikuwahi muona my dad akifanya hizo kuosha, sijui kufanya nini. Never used to do.
From a point of view, Nelly, what's the role of a man and what's the role of a woman?
The role for a man for me is obviously to provide and protect and to he's the head of the family. So yeye ndo anapatia your family direction. Yes, and the woman is a helper, ni msaidizi, ana support. You know, they say the man is the head and the woman is the neck. Kwa hivyo head haiwezi kasimama kama hakuna neck.
Unajua pia head leaders wanataka pia saa zingine wanaweza kuwa kuna challenge, wanataka pia wasupportive. So si wewe unarudi unakuwa hawezi kuwa head kidogo. Hawezi kuwa head kidogo, mimi nirudi chini kidogo.
Lakini sasa tumesema nini? Sasa mambo imebadilika. Kuna nyumba zenye the woman is the head.
That's true.
But then wanasemanga not all men are leaders.
That's true.
So siku kuna family where the woman is the leader of the family and the arrangement works for them.
But I feel like specifically to you, Nelly, the problem is you do not really want, or maybe if you're speaking to other women, there's a particular kind of women who are not open to chipping in when it comes to finances, because they truly believe that that is the role of a man. But I also had someone else, I think on the show some time back, it was actually a couple, and the woman said when you get married, everything marries together. So there's nothing like it's my money and it's your money. Everything marries together. The moment you get married, even the finances should marry. Kwa hiyo mnakuwa na one pot where you put in, you bring in your 100,000, I bring in my 150, but it's from one pot. And they were advising that that's the only way for a marriage to remain strong.
Me, I beg to differ. Me, I beg to differ. I feel like the arrangements are different. Whatever works for you works for you. Me, my parents have been together, you know, miaka zote until my dad died last year, and my mom never worked a day in her life. She just like took care of the family and the children. So from her part, it was like financially, of course, a zero. And it worked out for them. I feel like right now, that arrangement might not even work for Anthony maybe, or a man right now in the modern, you know, they will want you to at least work. So I feel like it just depends on the two of you. What are your values? What do you know, what vision yenu ni nini kwa your marriage? Like, what's the arrangement? You know, because like nowadays we've seen women working and the husband is not working and they are having children and they are very much okay. They are very much okay. There's no problem. So when it comes to matters like that, like matters of finances, it just depends on the two of you. What have you agreed? You know, me saa zingine wanajiuliza, it depends on you as an individual. What do you value the most? You know, like right now maybe I am working, I'm a CEO, I have money, and I just value the family setup. I want a man in the house. I want to have children. So money for me is not really a factor. I wouldn't be like, I want someone who earns now 550 because I'm earning 400. You know, maybe hata nikipatana na mwenye ana earn 50, tunasikizana tu. Yeye anapika watoto shuleni jioni. You know, we come, mwenye amepika, like it's not a big deal. So it just depends on dynamics, because nowadays things have really changed.
Yeah, things have changed over the years. Would you say that tradition has a big part, or has played a big part in defining roles? Because I feel like it's the culture and our traditions that got to put this, you know? Traditions
play a big role. Culture a big role. The only few people who are not as per what the culture says na wanapinga ni Gen Zs na Gen Alpha. Sasa lakini watu millennials hao ni culture kabisa. Kende venye culture inasema. But of course not everyone does that. But tradition plays a big role, and tradition si mbaya. We can't erase culture. We cannot. It is part of a society. So whatever culture says about a man, whatever culture says about a woman, we cannot erase that. But what matters, as we are saying in a family setup, is the both of you are in charge. The both of you can define or redefine the type of roles you want in order for it to the family setup to be strengthened. Msikuwe tu mnasema nao juu mimi kama mwanamke familia traditions zangu inasema that I'm supposed to be the caregiver, I'm supposed to be taking care of the children, that now my husband cannot chip in. Ati sasa nikiona bwana yangu akipika nitasema akona umama. Hapana, it's very okay. Kama mimi honestly speaking, mimi nimereiziwa na both parents. Na both of my parents nimegrow akiona, nimeona grow nikiona budangu akiingia jikoni kupika. Yeah, na kukuwa na shida. There's one thing my mom tells me strongly. The one thing my mom told me very strongly, akaniambia the time alikuwa pregnant for me and my twin sister who passed on, my dad was very present in terms of cooking, preparing for everything. And hizo vitu zote hata after alideliver alikuwa there. So mimi nimegrow nikiona hiyo. So it also matters with how people have been brought up.
Yeah, true. That also matters.
Yeah, that matters.
It depends with where you were brought up.
Let me use a good example of Nelly. Nelly has mentioned something. Akasema amegrow up akiona mamake hakuna.
She did not work.
So I want to ask her. Now, right now, either you have a family or you don't. Say if you had a family right now, for example, would you want to chip in now that you saw would you want a man who is very rich and can
no, I want to be provided for.
Oh, because you saw that happen.
Not really. Maybe that's my preference. It influenced.
But it influenced. It influenced.
But for me, I feel that like the role of a man is to provide for the family. Yes. I feel like a woman is a helper, but I do not want to take the role of a man.
But sasa shida inakuja, the women who are not appreciating men. Unajua, there is the bit of, yes, I'll provide.
Then there's also effort.
Yes.
You know, sometimes maybe we cannot be able to afford our children going to this particular school, but at least they're going here and the fees are being paid. So at least there's effort.
But also appreciation. You see, when I talk about appreciation, I mean, unajua, there are men, for example, inaweza kuwa haan pesa mob. Na maybe the lady pia hayuko haan pesa mingi. But maybe jioni the man has come with something small, but the woman does not see it as something. Na anaanza kusema sasa, you see, sasa wewe ni umeshinda the whole day na umekuja na hii. What is this now? Hii itatulishaje na watoto wetu ama mtoto wetu huyu? You see, that now diminishes a man na anamfanya kwe a feel vibaya, hata hana moral. And that now is what makes now men go to that extent of now contemplating suicide. And it becomes a major challenge.
When we look at roles, you know, and how they were defined, you know, from the beginning or back in the days, considering our culture, the woman was supposed, most of the times the woman was at home. She was the one who's taking care of the home. She was the one who was looking after the children and whatnot. And even maybe if you ask around, especially children who were brought up by boomers, that's mostly millennials, right? You'll find them saying that they really didn't get to interact with their dad as much. Most of them, the dad wasn't really home because they were outside maybe working towards providing, ama yako inje na mabeshte zake or whatever. Most of them, you'll hear them saying, maybe my dad wasn't as present. He was our dad at home, yes, and he used to pay for everything and we were okay, but they were not as present in their lives, you know. So do you feel like that is also being redefined? Do you feel like more men now I won't say taking responsibility because they still took responsibility, but then now take time to have time with their children. You know, you don't just come usiku saa zile wamelala and asubuhi ushatoka. You find time with them. Maybe Sundays go out. Do you feel like more men are trying to do that?
In psychology, we say parents parent from a point of trauma. Either us or our parents. They parented us from a point of trauma. And I say a point of trauma, what I'm trying to say is what you didn't get growing up. But what they didn't get or what we didn't get, we want to make sure our children get. Or what we got, we want to make sure now our children get better. And now that becomes now a major challenge. So that plays, that's a factor.
How is it a challenge? Is it not something that is actually like fueling you?
You see now, for example, if it's someone who didn't see the father being there, present most of the time, most of these children, not all of them will be encouraged when they grow up to take roles and be the man, be the leader, be the provider, be the protector. Most of them now will actually, now vice versa, now because of the trauma, because you see now that is unit trauma, that's childhood trauma. They didn't, and you know, every child needs that parental love, parental presence. So if they didn't see that, most of the time you don't expect them to be present, and if they are present, they will be present, but well, not that much. Na wenye watakuwa present juu wamejikakamua na wamejipatia the effort.
Do you feel it's changing? Like, are we having like, more men, you know, being present?
So some time back I was having a conversation with my friends, and most of them, everyone was complaining about like their fathers, like maybe they never used to see their dads, like the relationship is not as good. Personally, I do not relate. I had a really present father, and I feel like right now, if you grew up with a father like that, you do not want to be the same. You want to be more present. I feel like Sai dads are more present. They are more involved in their children's life than that time. Because that time I feel like they used to see children like awa ni watoto. Like they never used to interact with us, but nowadays we know you can ataka mtoto wako 5 years old, 6 years old, 7, you can bond with them. Nowadays kuna vitu za dates, unasikia daddy dates, nini, napelekwa kapita, you know, they're bonding, they're having like a, you know, present relationship kabisa. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's also being redefined.
Yeah,
you can say that is also being redefined. And it's for the better, if you ask me. It's for the better because I feel we all need to have that relationship, you know, with both parents. As we almost come to a conclusion, let's conclude it with us trying to see the best way to strengthen the bonds in families right now. And also, as we say that, also have in mind that we have more growing single parenthood homes now than they were back in the day.
Okay, the major one I would say is open communication. You see now when you communicate what you, like for example, if there's something you want done and you're open to communicating and say, you know what, I think I'm not comfortable with this, I would want you to maybe help me in this and stuff like that, that would really help. When you talk now about single parenting, now that is a pandemic that is currently happening most of the time. Most people right now in this generation are either single fathers or single mothers. Sana single mothers. And now that becomes a challenge. That becomes a challenge if it's a lady or it's a woman raising a boy child. You can imagine, can you see that challenge there?
I definitely see
a woman raising a boy child.
As a woman, I don't know what makes a man. You need a man to
guide. Now that becomes a challenge. Now unapata if it's now the single parent who is a lady, and I instill the feminism in this man, I mean this boy who is growing up to become a man, without now that knowledge and understanding of how it should be.
Okay. We also need to have more conversations about co-parenting. I feel like we need to encourage men to be more present. In arrangements where there's a single mom raising kids, and ata umesamati, like you're raising a boy child, you don't know how to, you know, make them be like a man, they'll be more feminine. I feel like even a girl child needs their father.
That's true.
Like, it's really important to have both your parents. There's what you get from your mother that is unique, and there's what you get from your father that is unique. So even in arrangements where, you know, there's like separation or people are apart, I really think that there's a need to encourage the other parent, when you are away from the kid, to really be present, like physically present and emotionally in the life of the child.
I agree with you on that, and I feel like that's a really, really good way of putting a cap to this conversation. Even if you're not together as parents, please just be there for the children.
Yes.
Find ways of you co-parenting just to ensure that the child grows up with both your love. Thank you so much, Nelly. Thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us for this conversation. And this is where we call it a wrap right here on the show this morning. This has been a Family Check, and we usually do this each and every Monday. So be sure to tune in next week on Monday for another very interesting and engaging conversation. My name is Vivian Dagwa. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.